morning, everyone. It's so nice to see your wonderful faces. This is our first call for community solutions for March of 2024. We've hosted these calls since March of 2020 with the Forbes Funds and GPNP in an effort to allow nonprofits a space to share resources and opportunities, provide space to convene and drive conversations and connections, and better understand short and long-term community needs during the pandemic. Over the course of the last year or so, we've had a bit of a transition, moving these to a call and response model where we're launching a survey every week asking for input on what you would like to hear as members of GPNP or connected with the Forbes Funds network, and giving this space as a place to ask questions, engage, and join in. So please don't be passive participants. If you would like to kick the meeting off, we'd love it if you could put your name and organization in the chat so Ryan knows who he's speaking to this morning, because we've had so many instances of our speaker, sharing information that really sticks with some of the folks who've attended the calls, and in terms of keeping those conversations going. It's always good to know who's participating. So again, please add your name and your organization to the chat, and hopefully we can reference that throughout the conversation this morning. As I shared, our guest presenter is Ryan Lewis McNeil from Amachi Pittsburgh. He is the outreach specialist. I will be ending the call with a policy update and sharing some updates from Forbes Funds and GPNP. And I'll be turning it over to Fred in just a moment to talk about a little bit about youth empowerment and our goals through the Forbes Funds and how they might align with what Amachi is doing and what Ryan's going to be speaking on today. But first, we operate under dual frameworks. Firstly, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and second, the social determinants of health to guide outcomes of our work. There's a lot of conversations, and I'm sure most of the folks on this call can speak to this as well, where you're in a meeting and you're talking with folks from different organizations or different mission areas, different sectors, and people are saying the same thing differently, thinking that they're saying different things. And so when the Forbes Funds encouraged the city of Pittsburgh to adopt the UN SDGs as metrics for success, there are additional frameworks in terms of funding or goals for funders that align with these as well. And so it's really important, as much as possible, that we use the same language, and while retaining the identities of our organizations and missions, but also making sure that we can bridge language gaps as well. Since March of 2020, we have hosted 5,095 calls with 43,467 participants. And in a way to capture the impact of that, of those points of connection, the Forbes Funds has also adopted the 8 R's: the return on assets, return on equity, return on investment, return on policy, return on relationships, return on sustainability, return on technology, and return on well-being. Because it's great, as you're writing grant reports, to be talking about the number of touch points with folks, but knowing if it was the asset of having a really strong relationship with that organization that made something successful, or an equity focus that enabled a new opportunity that wouldn't have otherwise happened, or a return on policy analysis or engagement at the grassroots level that really fostered a change at the decision-making or legislative level, it's really important to track that information. And so in adopting the 8 R's kind of as a layer of, what is the impact of actually utilizing the UN SDGs and social determinants of health as ways of operating, that's a lot of information. And so as much as possible, I like to reiterate it and share on these calls each morning when I have your attention. But you're not here to listen to me. So Ryan Lewis McNeil graduated from Pittsburgh Technical College in 2011 with an associate's degree in business marketing. He has worked in various fields, including banking, customer service, and HR. Currently, Ryan serves as the outreach specialist for Amachi Pittsburgh. He's also a versatile artist who excels as a podcaster, MC, event curator, and personality. Ryan Lewis has hosted notable events such as Artist Talk, Pittsburgh Pride Revolution, and Too Hot for July. He's more than an artist. He amplifies Black queer creatives and creates dynamic experiences and dialogues in and beyond Pittsburgh as a cultural architect. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Before I turn it over to you in just a second, I'm going to invite Fred, having heard a little bit about the call and thinking about youth empowerment as the focus of Amachi and what we talked about really onboarding for this call this morning. Fred, do you have anything to add in or share with the folks putting their name and organization in the chat?
Certainly, I would start off by saying thank you, Ryan, for gracing us with your presence and your wisdom. I would say that an African proverb talks about a community that doesn't invest in its youth doesn't have a future. And so when we think about the breadth and depth of what we do on a day-to-day capacity, our vocation, how we care for our community, our kids and loved ones, we're reminded about the many roles and responsibilities people play on a day-to-day basis to influence and manage our children. We give, in many instances, our kids spend more time at school than they do at home in active activities and such. And so over the years, I've been a school teacher, a probation officer, coach of 5 sports, a mobile therapist, and I had the unfortunate job of working with and it's not the job, but the experience, the Pittsburgh youth policy effort that was managed by a mayor 2 mayors ago. And it really, we dealt with 120 of the worst juvenile offenders in the city of Pittsburgh. And our goal was to reintegrate them back into society. And for those who don't know me, prior to that, when I was a PO and school teacher, I buried over 50 kids from gang violence and had a kid die in my arms in 81. So I'm talking, this is some time ago. But this notion of youth and the role that youth play, we graduate 40,000 kids a year in Southwestern PA, and 20,000 of them leave the day after graduation. And so as we invest in kids in our region, they don't remain in our region because in many instances, they don't see a pathway forward to their long-term success, their long-term vitality. And so for me, I'm excited about today's calls. I'm interested in how Amachi and the role Ryan plays addresses youth violence, um, how we're addressing losing talent, and also two other critical things I think will be important to weave into this conversation. By 2030, $15.3 trillion will be aggregated towards what we call artificial intelligence and the role that young people play in guiding that process. So how are we looking at the role that they play in the immediate presence and into the future as a critical nexus for how we keep talent here? And also, how do we make some organizations be more infused with different technologies and talents that make those organizations more applicable and viable into the 21st century global economy? The second one is, and we've been working with a number of youth organizations in particular around the summit, is what is the role of the youth in executing some of the high level functions of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals? Like, how do we get the youth voice, not just their voice, but how do we get them involved in tangible activity that have sustained impact? How do we teach them how to build chapters to this work so that it's not an event, but more of a process? And so I think that kind of conversation is critical. And in particular, when you look at what I think Ryan will talk about, is a number of youth who have incarcerated family members as well, and the challenge that they also face with their parents reintegrating, the distance that they have, and what's lost in the youth experience is about really having a real sense of what does agape love look like from a parent, right? And so when that's missed, kids find love and appreciation in different spaces and places which often create skewed perspectives of their purpose. And so that's what I think is important today. And as a father of 6, I'm constantly looking for new and better ways to be a better father, be a better listener, be a better thought leader with my children, and also the spaces that they're in. And I have to say that the language is changing. Like, I'm a straight shooter, and my daughter and my kids are not, they don't shoot back, they shoot crooked. And so, I'm trying to capture, like, so what does that mean? What does that non-sensical response mean? And so I think for those of us who are parents, we are also struggling with how do we maintain the appropriate continuity with our children, given the depth and breadth of stuff that's going on in the world. And then lastly, the notion of sexuality. Like, our children are experiencing far different ways of exploring their sexuality. And as parents, we have to become more adept at being open to the myriad of ways in which that can be expressed. So hopefully that gives you some targets to shoot at Ryan this morning. Thank you, Emily, for allowing me to speak as well.
Of course. Thank you so much, Fred. And Ryan, I know that when we were talking originally on the phone about setting up this conversation, it's kind of an introduction, reintroduction of Amachi because just going through, I mean, Anna Hollis was on our advisory team for GPNP up until about a year ago. And when you were talking about all the stuff Amachi was doing, I was still like, oh, like I didn't know that. And I got to see Anna like at least once a quarter, if not more frequently. So I'm really excited to hear from you to learn again and relearn about what Amachi is doing. Thanks for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. It is an honor to speak before you, everyone here on this call. I want to say thank you to Olivia and Emily for giving me this opportunity to represent my amazing organization, Amachi Pittsburgh, and shout out to RED, Miss Anna Hollis. Without her and her vision almost 20 years ago, this would not be. So this is, to be a part of this legacy it's an honor. And on this call with me, I am joined by my manager, yes, the director. She's the manager of community impact, Samantha Monks, and my partner in crime. We're all partners in crime, but my direct partner in crime, Sarah Hamill. She's the other outreach coordinator. We all represent Amachi. We are one. We say Amachi. Hashtag Amachi strong. Excuse me. I'm dealing with a little sore throat here, but I am the outreach coordinator. Okay, my name again, you heard my introduction. I'm Ryan Lewis, and I want to introduce to some, and some might be familiar. So I'm calling this an introduction, reintroduction of Amachi Pittsburgh. And I guarantee someone on this call, and I'm not usually, can we do the raise of hands? Maybe a child that is impacted by parental incarceration. I'm sure somebody knows somebody impacted. That's okay. We don't have to. Okay, I see a raised hand. Yes, thank you. I see raised hands. Yes. In 2021, before I have a presentation, and I told Emily I will probably not take up the whole time. I like to get to the point. I ramble a little bit, so please excuse me. But in 2021, about over 25,535 children were impacted by parental incarceration. So let me just, here in Allegheny County. So let me just, throw that out there to you guys. And, we'll ask if you have any questions later about the program, anything that I can answer. Also, my colleagues here at Amachi can answer as well. But I'm going to share my screen and just talk through, so you won't see my face, but you will see my presentation, and I'm going to talk through it. And yes, let's see. Can everybody? Okay. Moving too fast. You guys can see my screen, right?
We can.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, Amachi Pittsburgh, supporting youth and families impacted by familial incarceration since 2003. Those who might not be familiar, but Amachi is Nigerian Igbo, and it's meaning who knows what God has brought us through this child. That's it for a minute. Our mission is to empower, nurture, and protect those most vulnerable to the criminal justice system. We are looking to amplify, give them a voice. And our motto of success is we have three main, and one is new. We're implementing new, is coming soon. We have one-on-one mentoring, Amachi ambassadors, a youth leadership development program, family strengthening, and coming soon, school-based mentoring. And one-on-one mentoring, Amachi, we developed to help break the generational cycle of incarceration with our one-on-one mentoring program, and it serves youth from 6 to 18. We seek community-based mentors to meet mentees at least 4 hours per month for a minimum commitment of 1 year. 1 year, 4 hours. You see in our display, that is me in the corner with my mentee, Sair. He is 13 and loves art and loves music and loves to dance. And he is such a beautiful young spirit in such a crippled, crazy world sometimes. And he gives me hope that there could possibly be a better future. So yes, we are, I call it, when I go to events and I pitch this part of our program, and I always say, we as the one-on-one mentoring here at Amachi, I call it literally Tinder for mentoring. Sair might like broccoli. Sair might have liked broccoli and I, don't like broccoli. We don't want to match, anything, we want to make sure we get the matches perfectly to the point and that, it can go beyond a year commitment. The goal is I've heard success stories, talking to people in the community about, hey, not only have I been included with this mentee, but their siblings come over. We go to family events, we go to cookouts, we go to Kennywood together. We take them, it becomes a blended family. So that's also a beautiful part of the one-on-one mentoring. Next is our Youth Leadership Development Program, Amachi Ambassadors. It is a youth leadership development program designed to empower the youth from ages from 14 to 18 to become agents of change using their powerful voices and compelling stories. Usually they meet bi-weekly on Saturdays for group sessions. The youth are trained to build a youth organizing movement. They go to Harrisburg and speak on these issues that they go through, unfortunately. And also in a part of sharpening their leadership skills, giving them a voice of their own, show them that they are more than they are not their circumstances. That's the goal. They are not their circumstances. There is a future, for you. You don't have to be like, everything that you go through. They try to, people in society try to, because you have an incarcerated family member, oh, you're going to be just like your dad, or you're going to be like your mom, or whoever is, in the incarcerated. And we don't want that stigma on our youth. We want to give them a fresh mind that they, the future is theirs. And family strengthening. So Amachi, with family strengthening, our activities and workshops strengthen family functions involving children along with the caregiver and sometimes the incarcerated parent. We have in the past, we have done, especially during the height of COVID, the virtual visiting sessions with the incarcerated parent and the family, but also with our family strengthening, we include the caregiver, the mentor, the mentee. We believe, again, going to the blended family, everybody is impacted by this. So we include our families. We go to pirate games. We have a summer bash. We have a toy drive. And every other year, we switch between a ride for social justice, and we have a Hachi Pachi event. And we are in our 20th year, so Hachi Pachi will be later this year. So yes, and currently we also have family strengthening workshops that are happening with our family engagement specialist, Caprice Scott. More of that information will be provided at the end. And also we can't provide resources, that we have. Machi is big with being a community and building, other nonprofits, other organizations that have those resources. So we are all about connecting and being a presence. So like I said, 20 years of Amachi this year, we are in year 20. So with that, we are introducing our new community-based initiative, Here for You. You guys are getting an exclusive. I'm a little shaky because it's exciting. It's like, we're here. We are here. Excuse me. Here for You is a new mobile outreach initiative in which Amachi will partner with other community-based organizations through Allegheny County to distribute resources, provide violence prevention programming, and tech trauma responsive strategies to youth and families in hard-to-reach neighborhoods. Our ED, Ms. Anna Hollis, did a thorough research of where in the area where there is lack And when we say lack of like transportation wise, in the Mon Valley, this initiative here for you will be targeted in the Mon Valley. So we, if you follow us on social media, we do community Fridays. Me and Sarah, we go into the different community in the Mon Valley. We've been where we've been Braddock, we've been in McKeesport, we've been in Homestead, we've been in Clairton, and reaching out, walking door to door to these organizations, starting at the libraries, door to door, going to introduce ourselves and just say that, hey, we want to connect. We want to see how we can collaborate. We have a new initiative that we are coming directly to you in the community. We are looking for us to reach outside of the families that are in our organization in our program, and we want to reach families outside, anybody outside. I hear two things at events when I'm there. Either it's hey, I didn't know this program existed, or you guys are still around, and it's like, yes, we are year 20, we are going into year 20, we are still around, still strong. There's a lot of changing faces, but we are a new team after the pandemic, and we're stronger than ever, and we are here for you. um yeah, so like I said, I wasn't going to take the whole um time, so I just want to shoot this shot to say, this is the outreach team. Myself, Ryan Lewis McNeil, and my partner in crime, Sarah Hamill. And here's how you can get involved. Thank you to Emily and Olivia. Thank you, the Greater Pittsburgh Nonprofit Partnership and Forbes Fund, for having me this morning. I almost said this afternoon, this morning, but here briefly, I'll keep that up, screenshot it, save it, become a mentor, sign up for our newsletter, our youth family application. If you know anybody, again, impacted by parental incarceration, or if anybody on here wants to become a mentor, or sign up for our newsletter, because we have a lot of events, a lot of things happening, we should say, and we are also looking to be involved in those events. So
Thanks, Ryan.
thank you.
Well, we have a couple of questions before you end the presentation. I was wondering if
There
you
we
could
go.
go back to the was it Amachi for you or here for you
Here for you.
topic. So I think it says a lot that you as as an employee of Amachi are also a mentor with Amachi. And so with the mentorship experience and seeing, firsthand some of the navigating the relationship differences and figuring out the best way to support the kids going through the program. What have been some of the highlights of that for you? Because I mean, we spoke about it a little briefly, but I want to hear more about what that experience of being a mentor is like, and then hopefully we can get some other folks on the call to jump in.
Sure. It has been an idea, a thought of mine when I started Amachi. I'm coming up on my year in April. And even before finding out about this organization, as I did my research and finding out about this organization, I knew I always wanted to be a mentor in some capacity, but also realizing that I wasn't at a point in my life where I could be a mentor. I could probably use a mentor, myself. But I have many mentors in my life that are, present in everything. So it's very new. And when I finally made the decision in around my birthday in like October, I was like, you know what, I want to do something. I've always wanted to have be a resource, be a guide. I've had a lot of, like I said, growing up, I had a lot of mentors myself, being a youth leader in a youth leadership program myself. Growing up, so I know what that that aspect is like. My father, when I was younger, my father was incarcerated briefly. Don't remember much of it because I was younger, so I don't have the full, out relating to that circumstance, but I can, definitely as an empath, I feel them. I feel the children in our programs. So yes, I matched with Sair in, let's see, January. It's very new. So it's, we're still in that breaking the ice phase still. He's a 13-year-old boy. He likes to eat. Okay. So we always, the best way to get him, I'm like, you want to go try Raising Cane's? He's like, yeah, so we are building, it's an honor to be a part of his village. His mom and I communicate. She lets me know what's happening. I text him. You know, he's a comic book fan, so we are excited about X-Men, the reboot cartoon series coming back out. We're going to the Illusion Museum coming up. I plan to take him to a friend of mine that does. He's a dance instructor, and I know Sire is interested in dancing, so we're gonna, you know, do a little bit of everything. And I'm excited because I feel like he's gonna bring the kid back out of me. Some things I've put in the past, you know, but as you get older, you're like, I don't want to do that anymore. But I'm like, I'm actually willing to do that. So we're in that breaking the ice phase. He's getting comfortable. We're, you know, getting comfortable with each other. But it's been a beautiful experience so far to be a part of his village.
I love that. And the breakdown of what Amachi actually means in Nigerian Igbo was beautiful to set the call. I appreciate you encouraging folks to sit for a second and just kind of like feel that. Um, That's wonderful. And I appreciate everyone, just as a shout out to the participants on the call this morning. Thank you for sharing your names and organizations. I didn't say this at the beginning. I should have. If you have any questions, feel free to add those to the chat directly, or, come off mute. This is a pretty conversational format each Monday. And given the organizations and the folks on the call, I feel like there are definitely some really good insights or questions that could originate in the audience. So just thank you to everyone for joining this morning. Kind of a second question. So again, in our initial planning conversation, when you were talking about like what people know about Amachi versus some of the exciting initiatives like the Here for You, the accessibility, that you're doing. So how does that differ maybe from kind of like the origin? What has been that growth? Because I know you mentioned that Anna did a kind of like a gap analysis, right? Like where some supports or systems are falling through. And I know a lot of other nonprofit organizations work to do that as well. And so like what has been, from your perspective, like that incremental step by step to be like what Amachi is today? Because I feel like everybody, when you've arrived, and that's what people see. But like this is a 20-year process. So, could you speak a little bit about what that growth has looked like? Recognizing I know you're here for a year.
Yeah, so I was, you know, Samantha. So me being, if she feels like, feels like chiming in, because
Oh, I still don't think we can hear you still.
I don't think we can hear. So,
You can hear me?
no,
Now we
there
can.
we go.
Oh, okay, great. Well, sorry, could I get a review of the question?
Yeah, no worries. So this is year 20 of Amachi, and I think a lot of times as nonprofits, when things are going really well, everyone's like, "Oh, this is what an organization is." But the evolution of things from 20 years ago to doing a gap analysis. Could you speak a little bit about the growth of the organization from the original vision to being able to launch like a transportation equity initiative that you guys are doing now?
Sure. Basically, I think it was, so really I have to give the credit to our executive director, Anna, who it really does remain flexible and responsive to the environment in which we work. So I started just after the pandemic with Amachi, and we were seeing pretty low participation numbers, but because we are a research-based, basically, programming, we know that the numbers out in the county were not decreasing, even though our participation numbers we saw were lower. And so that was basically our cue to get innovative and to think about how do we meet families where they're at, and not wait for them to come to us. And so that was the idea of looking into more innovative solutions to reaching hard to reach families. So that's where the idea of the mobile unit came from. And just with our growing connections in Allegheny County, I think we were able to kind of leverage those partnerships, and we're looking at expanding those even more, which is why we're very thankful to be on this call, and just make sure that we're working with the right players and the key players to really move meaningful change here in our county. Because as Ryan mentioned, we're not only involved in kind of short-term solutions, which not that mentorship is short-term, but We're also interested in these bigger systems shifts. And so we're looking at ways that we can all re-envision community and how to support the growth and development of our communities by our communities themselves.
Thank you. I absolutely love that. And I love that the team is giving so many shouts out to Anna because, I mean, one, absolutely well deserved, but two, again, the spirit of collaboration and support within the organization drives the partnerships that you all have. So that's really wonderful to see, especially first thing Monday. So kind of in that same vein, mentioning the collaborative partnerships, and having the community call as a platform, we'll send out the recording. What are some, key things that you're looking for in terms of partnerships right now? Is it, hosting the mobile unit on site for a couple of hours at some frequency? Is it mentorship specifically? Like, what are some of the, like, this is, first 30, 60, 90 days of this initiative for what we're really hoping to bring in as partnerships?
I'll take that one. Okay, so there are different types of partnerships. The first is that we're looking for a location to park and show up and provide programming. So from the Here For You bus, there's different curricula that we have. So we are working on building out kind of an Amachi specific curriculum using already established evidence-based curricula. So the first we use is the sanctuary model. The second is a leadership and civic engagement curriculum. So we have access to Soul's curriculum, Yell, and then a few others. And so we kind of merge those together along with information that we know in terms of just mass incarceration, impacts on families, just education about the impacts of incarceration on these families. And we package that all kind of together and then provide socio-emotional learning to youth and families. So we talk through things like safety, which we define as not only physical, but emotional, social, and moral. We talk through 7 commitments that we have as an organization. So we hit things like democracy, open communication, all of that. So we're looking for, that's what we'll be bringing on the van. So we're looking for locations where we can teach that curriculum because we don't plan to host an entire class on the van. That will be for kind of smaller groups of maybe 3 to 5 students to have a more intimate activity. So whether they have the quiet to write their own safety plan, whether they can meet with, if hopefully we can bring partners on the bus with us that maybe have social workers or therapists or meditation trainers that can kind of have that one-on-one time with a student while we are doing larger curriculum outside in a library or a school. So we're looking for location partners for that piece, looking for programming partners for anybody that has skills or activities and does educational programming on their own as well, but maybe want to leverage our vehicle and can kind of, we can work together to both reach communities and families that align with our mission. So, on a week that maybe we're talking safety, I'm interested in bringing on someone that can talk about youth physical safety, but then a partner that also wants to come on and talk about emotion management and how that regulates our systems and keeps us healthy and safe. So really just a wide range of programming. The more resources and tools and education we can provide, that's what we're looking for. And then the third type of partner we're looking for is anyone that provides giveaways or material distributions. So we've been going to Dollar Generals, Walmarts. We tried speaking to Giant Eagle, although we haven't had much success there. But we already have partners such as Reading is Fundamental and Reading Ready and Dress for Success. Basically, those types of partnerships that are willing to give us kind of bulk items that we can then distribute as well. And then we kind of data share, how much distribution we did on their behalf from our van. So we're just looking basically for those kind of three types. And as Ryan said, we're focused right now in the Mon Valley, but that hits kind of widely West Mifflin, Duquesne, McKeesport, and Clairton. And then we're hoping to move into kind of the Beachview, Carrick area later in the year. But that'll be based on what we learn from this first iteration.
Thank you. I was like rapidly taking notes in the chat, and I know that Bree has the the transcript going for this call as well, and I'll kind of do a little bit of like a write-up bullet point for, takeaways when we post this later in the week, especially in our Friday newsletter. So kind of like, I guess, and Ryan, like if you have any, words of wisdom or final thoughts, for the importance of this work, what you've already been able to see over the course of your first year at Amachi, and then anything to kind of give us food for thought for the rest of the week, keeping this front of mind. I would absolutely love to end the call that way.
Sure. You know, I like to, I originally, when I would go to events and I would say, we have to think about our kids. They are the future. And right now, the world is in a very weird and dark space. Um, so it starts with us. It starts with us to encourage, to empower, to amplify these kids and give them a voice of their own, no matter what circumstances, what they're going through, who they identify as, whatever. They are the future, and we need to do better to support them, I think. Amachi is an organization that is necessary, it is needed, and I am privileged and honored to be a part of this organization and to be supported by the likes of Samantha and Sarah. They keep me going and we motivate each other. And plus, with a pilot project, it can be heavy sometimes, and trying to figure out how to make sure we're doing it right. We don't want to step on anybody's toes and other organizations, but we just want to be a presence. The goal is we just want to be a presence. We want to support, and we want to just be a support. That's the best way I can say it.
Thank you so much. And I want to highlight in the chat, I know Nancy and Jamie both volunteered some suggestions. Thank you to both of you.
Thank
So
you.
Nancy suggested the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank and Lisa Scales work for like a backpack program potential. And Jamie, who is the executive director and founder of Let Us Turn Up the Beat, great organization name. Every time I love saying it. And they're in Carrick. And Jamie does a lot of like agricultural equity work and beyond, farming. And there's some really deep relationship building there as well. So yes, thank you. I want to do a shout out to both Jamie and Nancy for volunteering that information as well. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Fred, if there's nothing else that you want to jump in with, I know you kind of set the intention setting at the beginning of the call, and I appreciate the focus on youth-led work versus like youth-informed or youth engaged, right? Like actually having youth lead these conversations. Do you have any kind of closing thoughts based on what Ryan and Samantha shared?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great work happening in the ecosystem. What I'm concerned about, given Ryan's analysis around the external locus of control, the wars going on, the potential dynamic financially in our region, what's going on locally, nationally, and globally, I don't feel like there's an entity that's coordinating youth activity and segregating and aggregating what's going on and producing a continuum that's part of an ecosystem that's wrapping around supportive services from a myriad of perspectives that gives us a sense of how are our youth doing across these intersections. And we typically look at youth violence production and academic performance in college, right? And there's so much in between that's being missed. And I think if there's anything I would suggest to the group, and I don't think we can take on anything else, but I would love for a group to take the lead on like just coordinating that activity and helping people create a continuum, because I do feel like the foundations are going to start pulling back on different things. And if we don't have an established ecosystem around what's working and how it adds value to our current ecosystem, and then the last thing is, how are these youth being linked up with emerging opportunities in Pittsburgh's technology sector, manufacturing sector, healthcare sector? Like, how are we ensuring that we're giving youth the the prime opportunity to benefit first from what's in Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. And so I would just say, I'm not sure who I'm suggesting takes up that role, but I believe we're at the precipice of our very humanity. And we can't continue to have fragmented great activity that doesn't come together to create alignment. I just think that's nonsensical. And it's going to cost us. There's going to be good programs that are potentially impacted by that. Like I'll use one, for example, like the Healthy Village Learning Institute in McKeesport. How many people have visited and seen their artwork? How many people have used their drums? How many people have met with Keith and used their technology, their recording studios, their ability to print stuff, their ability to print shirts, their ability, like they have a one-stop shop that I don't think is open. I don't think Keith is not open to the world, but I don't think people want to come to McKeesport to benefit from something that is unique in Southwestern PA that has a rich cultural construct that actually could be a hub and spoke for some of our health and well-being for kids, right? And so have we thought about, can we create hubs and spokes around Allegheny County that allow us to really centralize activity with some level of predictability of what's needed so that the requests that come forward are timely and reflective of having the greatest traction for our kids? Because I feel like we're losing this battle. I think we're treading water, and I don't think, and I've been around the world, I don't think our problems are insurmountable, but we're treating them as if one single organization can solve these issues. And I don't believe that, that's not our philosophy as an institution and our investment strategy. And so if there's anything I would say is, even if it's smaller subsets of those youth serving agencies that collaborate, even if they look at the continuum from preconception to career, like something HCV, Homewood Children's Village has proffered, like who's actually working with those groups? And then my last thing is, I know a lot of people will be like, well, I tried to work with them, it didn't work. For our kids' sake, that can't be the outcome as I tried. That cannot be the outcome that I tried at the Kingsley, Dexter was difficult, or I tried to get with Walter. Like, our kids require a deeper commitment than I tried. Because if that's our best, then we can't expect them to try to work with us. Like either they're committed and we're committed or not. And anybody, youth or adult, I will take advantage of a service. If you give it to me transactionally, I'll take it transactionally. But if you invoke in me a transformational process that changes the trajectory of how I see the world, then I will be more inclined to take different risks with you because I know that you got me. All right. So I'm sorry if I went on a rampage, but I feel like that's important.
Thanks, Fred. Samantha and Ryan, I mean, is there anything in response that you'd like to, I know I already said like close out. I feel like Fred's just shared a lot. If not, it's totally okay. Oh, I saw you come off mute. Go ahead, Ryan.
I just want to say, I agree. We're not giving up on these kids. We're not giving up on these kids. And, everybody that's on this call, please reach out to any one of us. How can Amachi be a support? How can we be visible? How can we collaborate? And just, again, be a presence.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the Amachi team for joining us this morning. Usually we get like one presenter, so it's wonderful that the three of you were able to join us this morning and kind of to support in different ways. I saw the contact information go into the chat. If you have not shared your contact information or gotten that from Sarah's message in the chat, please grab that before we close the call. And Bree, if you wouldn't mind launching the poll, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into the public policy update and updates from Forbes Funds for this week, and hopefully we can get out of here a little bit early. So GPNP Public Policy Committee, the third Thursday between 1 and 2:30, we connect change makers, government officials, sector advocates, youth advocates, and individuals who have civic participation resources or expertise on a specific policy area, to have a conversation about what the role for GPNP in taking next steps is. A lot of these calls have been informational over the past year and a half, but we're moving to more of a mobilization, action-oriented model for these conversations. So that includes connecting folks, again, determining at what level GPNP is participating. Is this something where, we're hosting and scheduling legislative visits to local district offices to speak on specific issues? Or is it connecting with folks to share information like we did for our January and February calls, talking about elected official resources, in an election year? If you can't make every call, it's okay. It's not an issue. We have the recordings that go out the following Friday for in our weekly newsletter. But I do want to highlight the kind of shift in the purpose of the Public Policy Committee meetings this year, having a panel discussion format versus expertise from one organization or individual really emphasizes the, no one organization has the solution to all of these challenges approach. And two, having clear action items and mobilization efforts following and between each policy meeting is going to shift a little bit how we move and work this year as GPNP members. Next up, again, related to election year news. So there are some officials needed who are election officials to run the polls this year. There were 58 officials who served during November 2019, specific to Pennsylvania, not in any other area, but across the state of Pennsylvania, compared to experience levels during the 2019 election. The state is losing 293 combined years of experience, along with top county election officials as of last week. We didn't get to go into this because our call last week went over. But basically, some of the impacts beyond, teaching and upskilling election officials that happen is that errors are more frequent. And I know that, especially in the last couple of years, the amount of time it takes to tally votes and then report them from voting stations leads to this level of mistrust or distrust in the polling booths. And that's just because people are working to be very accurate and not make mistakes. But having an election official, or 58 of them who are used to doing this and trained on this, is really a loss to potential trust in the system this year, in an election year. So the Department of State is hoping to kind of support this a little bit and making training programs available and providing guidance on the highly technical aspects of running an election. But there have also been calls for future years that the legislature should act to provide more resources and training and better standards for universal practices like poll worker training and pre-election equipment testing, because a lot of times what happens is municipality by municipality, or county to county even, some of the practices are different, and that's what results in a lot of these questions that come up based on election results. Second, related to election year updates, the U.S. Appeals Court on missing date ballots. So last week, the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals heard arguments in Philadelphia about the district judge's ruling last November that even without proper dates, mail-in ballots should be counted if they are received on time. So if a mail-in ballot is mailed in and has no date, the incorrect date, or even the date of birth of the voter, a couple of them came in that way, that the court ruling was that the vote should still count, but that has been challenged, and so it's going to the U.S. Circuit of Appeals, looking, and they heard evidence last week around if that's a valid voter submission, if the person did not follow the instructions on the ballot card. A lot of folks who are advocates for voter equity and supporters of Civil Rights Act, there were a lot of arguments about violating the right to vote. in this discussion, just including evidence from the case. More than 7,600 mail-in ballots from 12 counties were not counted in 2022's general election because of this. And those included over 1,000 from Allegheny County, 2,600 from Philadelphia, and 66 in Washington County, and 95 in Westmoreland. So of those counties, 3 of them are in Southwest Pennsylvania. So this is an issue that specifically affects, this part of the state. Okay, a couple of ecosystem updates. This is the last week. A few of you are probably going to get some emails from me in the next couple of hours about our final call for cohort participants launching end of March, third week of March. First one is AI-assisted humanity-centered strategic design in a box. We're changing a little bit with cohort 2, which is upskilling and reskilling capable leaders. What we had originally intended for this cohort to be was very development focused in terms of like fundraising and running campaigns for an organization to work with individuals who might have donor capacity. But it's turning into more of a persuasion and influence course, including brick mindset for business, but also including advocacy focused conversations, because what is advocacy if not persuasion and influence, and working to get individuals behind you to support your work, whether that's funding, policy change, or partnerships. So cohort 2 is expanding in terms of how these lessons are going to be applied for organizations. So there's a couple of additional folks that I think would be really good fits and more eligible for this focus versus a strictly development focus. And then the third cohort is hiring and training your first AI development assistant. There's going to be an article coming out on the 11th, which is next Monday, from Public Source. We've been working with our partners, Mad Labs, who are hosting these cohorts with us, to create a dialogue on what it actually means for nonprofit organizations to adapt and employ artificial intelligence, and how any sort of concerns around artificial intelligence taking jobs, or conversations around labor wages specific to the nonprofit sector don't really apply or aren't as applicable, because a lot of nonprofits are under-resourced and understaffed as it is. And so when there's this conversation about artificial intelligence taking jobs, or taking away opportunity, that's not it at all. It's more so freeing up the humans that are employees of nonprofit organizations to focus on more of the human things that AI can't replicate, like relationship building, like strategic planning, like building out partnerships and timelines for this work, taking into account assets within the ecosystem. So that third cohort is really focusing on, what place could AI be most supportive within my organization? Where is it most applicable? And how can we, train it to do the things that we need it to do? Very exciting news. This was posted last week. The Forbes Funds and GPNP are hosting 2 full-time positions and looking to fill those actively. The applications are due by March 20th, and you can apply at jobs@forbesfunds.org. First position is Chief Project Management Officer, and this is a salary of $75,000 to $90,000, and the project coordinator, $50,000 to $60,000, and you can learn more about these positions at bit.ly/2024 TFF jobs. And we're an equal opportunity employer with a commitment to diversity and inclusion. So if you're interested, please join. And thank you so much for joining us on the call this morning. Bree already launched the poll. We appreciate your feedback and active participation, and everybody who added questions or comments or information to the chat. On March 18th, we will be joined by Rob Cherry from Partner for Work, who has employed the entrepreneurial operating systems model to his nonprofit organization. And that's a way of applying kind of a traction. If you haven't read the book Traction, it's about finding where things are going well within your organization, how to structure conversations and communication internally and externally to feed those things, and where there already is traction, how to really maximize that and supercharge across your organization, whether it's development, HR, etc. On the 25th, we'll be joined by Jamie and Justin from the University of Pittsburgh CEC, and the forum, for anybody who hasn't registered already, is tomorrow at, I believe, 8:30 a.m. is the start, March 5th, and that'll be, I believe, at the Pitt Student Union. But there's a kind of a policy and a discussion forum taking place tomorrow, and then Jamie and Justin will be joining us the 25th to talk about what else is in store for the CEC this year. So thank you everyone for joining us. I'm excited excited to get this recording out and share more about Amachi and, what this organization has going on. And I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you, and I hope to see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.